long-time listeners to the channel will remember a few years ago one of my favourite series, and one of yours as well, Werewolves Are A-Holes. Now I think finally I might have found its spiritual successor in this series. Now tonight we're going to hear the first 3 episodes of what are at least 10, with many more maybe to come if you like it. Now that's basically how it works. If you like this, it's going to go on for a while. Bit of screwball comedy to mix in with the horror here, so I loved it, and I really hope you're going to as well. Anyway, that's enough of my description. I don't want to ruin it before you even listen. You ready? Okay then, here we go with I Deliver Pizza in the Strangest Town in America. This is my story. By Margot Holloway. Prologue. My name's Ty Bramble. I deliver pizza in a town that shouldn't exist. That's not hyperbole. Mosswood Falls isn't on most maps. Yeah, you can Google it, but the results just loop you back to the Wikipedia entry for cartographic anomalies. If you try and drive here using GPS, your phone will lead you straight into the lake. Not to the lake, into it. The locals say the fog messes with electronics. I say it's the ghosts. Anyway, I deliver pizza. I took the job about 3 years ago. I was 19, broke, and nursing a hangover in a laundromat that also sold dream catchers. That's when Darla Vexley, my now boss and possible demon hunter, handed me a crust cradle application form and said, "You look like you know how to run from things. You ever driven stick?" I hadn't. I said I had. And she hired me anyway. Well, at first, the job seemed normal enough. Sketchy addresses, weird customers. One guy tried to tip me with a live squirrel in a hat. Yeah, the usual small-town nonsense. But then there was the night I delivered to the Holloway house. The big stone one that everyone avoids. The one where the doors don't line up and the lights flicker even when the power's out. Well, that night changed everything. I'll tell you that story soon, I promise. Let's just say it involves blood, a basement, and a girl with no face. But for now, you just need to understand one thing. Mosswood Falls is wrong. Now, not in a quirky town full of lovable eccentrics kind of way. Wrong like the shadows move on their own. Wrong like time slips and people disappear. Wrong like the mayor has a smile that's too perfect and nobody remembers electing her. And for some reason, a lot of these horrors really want pizza. Don't know why. Maybe evil gets hungry too. What I do know is this. Every time I put that warm cardboard box in my passenger seat and pull out into the mist, something's waiting. Something with claws, or fangs, or way too many eyes. Sometimes it wants a slice. Sometimes it wants me. But I always deliver. Don't know how, dumb luck, divine intervention, or maybe Biscuit, my dog, is actually some sort of holy guardian disguised in a snoring mud with gas. Whatever the reason, I'm still here, still standing, still tossing pizzas into the abyss and hoping it tosses back exact change. So yeah, that's me. Ty Bramble, pizza guy. First delivery's in 10 minutes. And the address just says, 3rd house past the weeping tree. Knock 3 times. Don't answer if she knocks back. Yeah, this town sucks. But the tips are pretty good. Episode 1. The Haunted Mansion Special. Well, I've delivered pizza to a lot of questionable places in Mosswood Falls. Haunted trailer parks, abandoned mines. Once even to a guy living in a treehouse who insisted I climb up and hand it over before the crows take him. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the Dalrymple house. It was a Friday night, drizzling like it always does when the fog rolls in early. Biscuit, my dog/emotional support creature, was curled up in the passenger seat, snoring like a chainsaw under a pillow. I just clocked in when Darla, my boss, handed me a slip of paper and a pizza box that smelled like fresh basil and regret. "Try not to get married this time," she said, completely serious. I didn't ask what she meant. I've learned not to. The order was flagged as premium priority. A limited time promotion we were running called the Haunted Mansion Special. Yeah, a dumb Halloween tie-in that gave people a free garlic breadstick if they ordered from one of the town's dozen or so structurally unsound Victorian death traps. This particular order had no name, no callback number, no real address. Just Dalrymple House, Whispering Hollow Road, ring bell, do not knock, do not enter unless invited, do not look her in the eyes. Classic Mosswood Falls. Just enough cryptic energy to let you know you're about to do something deeply stupid. But hey, $20 is $20. Darla threatened to dock my pay the last time I ghosted a ghost. I tossed the pizza in my heated bag, grabbed biscuit, who only comes with me on the weird ones, and fired up my truck. As we pulled out of the Crust Cradle parking lot, the radio fuzzed over and started playing a waltz. Real old school, like Victrola-era ballroom stuff. Well, that's never a good sign around here. By the time we reached Whispering Hollow Road, the fog had thickened into soup. My headlights barely cut through it, and the GPS spun in circles before crashing completely. I found the place anyway. The Dalrymple house loomed through the mist like a painting someone had started and then got bored halfway through. 3 stories tall, covered in ivy, half its shutters hanging like broken teeth. There was no driveway, just a mud path leading to a gate that opened on its own with a long, oily creak. I looked at Biscuit. Biscuit looked at me. "We're just delivering a pizza," I said, to absolutely no one. "It's not like we're staying for dinner." Oh, spoiler alert, we were very much staying for dinner. I'd barely stepped through the rusted iron gate when the front door swung open by itself. I wasn't even on the porch yet. Now, usually when a door opens on its own in this town, it means one of 2 things. 1, the house is alive and wants you inside, or 2, a demon is pretending to be your dead grandma and wants a hug. Either way, it's bad news. Well, I should have turned around. I should have left the pizza at the gate, texted Darla to, give some excuse about poltergeists or ectoplasmic interference, and gone home to microwave ramen. But instead I said, out loud, like a damn idiot, "Hello? Pizza delivery." And that's when they rushed me. God, I barely had time to blink before I was surrounded by 6 people in long velvet robes, their eyes wide, pupils dilated like they'd just freebased ghost pepper hot sauce. One of them had a full-on crystal ball in her hands. Another was holding a taxidermy owl. I think it was wearing a monocle. "You've arrived," said the tallest one, a gaunt man with cheekbones sharp enough to slice garlic. "The medium has come. The ritual can begin." I tried to back up, but the pizza box was already being yanked from my hands like I was a human sacrifice in a mozzarella cult. Biscuit let out a growl from his carrier bag, but that only made them more excited. "His familiar bears the mark of the crescent fang," cried the monocle woman. "It's a sign." Now, for the record, Biscuit has no such mark. He does, however, have a birthmark shaped like a chili pepper on his butt, which I guess could look like a crescent fang if you squint and hate logic. Hey, I started, holding up my hands. "There's been a mix-up. I'm just the guy who brings the pizza. I'm not medium anything. I'm barely medium rare." Well, they weren't listening. The tall guy clapped once, and the front door slammed shut behind me, the sound echoing through the mansion like a coffin lid snapping shut. "Let the communion commence," he whispered. And just like that, I was being ushered, pizzaless and very much against my will, into the heart of Dalrymple House, where someone had set up a circle of candles, a pentagram drawn in chalk on the floorboards, and a portrait of a woman in a wedding dress whose eyes followed me wherever I moved. And no, I don't mean they looked like they followed me. I mean her eyes were literally turning in the painting to keep watching me. That's when I realized two things. One, I'd walked into an actual seance. And two, someone or something inside this house thought I was the key to reaching the spirit world. Which, if I'm being honest, is a lot of pressure for someone who can't even parallel park. They made me sit in the center of the summoning circle. Not like near it, not observing it. Dead center. Right on top of a chalk pentagram drawn with questionable accuracy and probably actual bone dust. The pizza, now forgotten on a nearby end table, had started to levitate, slice by slice, like a mozzarella-based offering to the gods. Biscuit had hopped out of his carrier and was now circling the room warily, growling like he does when someone's about to do something incredibly dumb. Which, in this house, was everyone. The velvet-robed cultists took their places around me, lighting candles and chanting in some language that sounded like someone gargling Latin through a mouthful of old spaghetti. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and then went out completely. Only the candlelight remained, casting long dancing shadows across the cracked walls and that unnerving bridal portrait, the one that kept watching me with the intensity of someone waiting for a long overdue Amazon package. Her eyes were wide and glassy, her painted lips frozen in a smile that looked way too hopeful for a dead woman. Hey, do I need to sign for the pizza? I asked, because I panic joke when I'm scared. Nobody laughed. Yep, typical seance crowd. The tall guy, I think his name was Mordecai because, of course it was, stepped forward and held out a withered book the size of a car battery. Looked like it had been bound in something very non-vegan. He began to chant louder, and the room grew colder, like someone had opened a refrigerator full of dead prom queens. And then the air shifted, like something had entered the room. Every candle flame tilted sideways in perfect unison. Biscuit stopped growling and let out a single confused bark. And then she appeared. The ghost. She stepped out of the painting like she was walking through a curtain of oil paint and tears. Her wedding gown was yellowed with age, her veil trailing behind her like fog. Her hands were clasped in front of her, and her eyes, her real eyes now, locked onto mine with an intensity that made my spine feel like it was trying to escape through my skin. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You came back to me." Well, naturally, I did what any brave, pizza-wielding man would do in this situation. I screamed like a muppet and threw a candle at her. Now, to my credit, it passed straight through her, which was very informative but not at all helpful. The ghost floated toward me, arms outstretched, tears glistening in her transparent cheeks. "You kept your promise," she said, hovering just inches from my face. "Ah, my love, after all this time you've found your way home." Behind her, the cultists began to chant louder, except now it didn't sound like a chant anymore. No, it sounded like a warning. Mordecai's voice broke mid-verse. "Wait, no, something's wrong. He's not the vessel." Yeah, no kidding, Morty. But it was too late. The ghost bride was already reaching out, and her icy fingers were just about to touch my cheek when every candle in the room exploded in a puff of black smoke. Everything went black. Not just the candles went out black. I mean, suffocating void can't see my own hands black. The kind of black where sound feels like it gets swallowed. I could hear Biscuit barking somewhere to my left, and the rustle of robes as the cultists scrambled, whispering frantic nonsense to one another. One of them screamed, short and sharp, like they'd just seen something they really didn't like. And then, just as suddenly, whoosh, the flames roared back to life on their own, but now the circle had changed. The pentagram was gone, erased, smudged out completely. In its place was a warped version, same lines, but now burned into the floorboards, glowing faint red like something had branded the house from below. The bride, she wasn't crying anymore. She was smiling, and not in a sweet, "Oh, my fiancé came back" kind of way. More like a "time to wear your skin like a prom dress" kind of way. "You're not him," she said softly, "but you'll do." That's when the temperature dropped again. My breath misted in front of me. The pizza box, which had been floating peacefully on a nearby table, slammed shut with a bang, as if even the pizza wanted out. Mordecai stumbled back, muttering, "This isn't her. This isn't what we summoned." "No," the ghost hissed. "You summoned a bride, but you brought me a groom." She turned toward me, that ethereal veil lifting with an invisible breeze. "And we shall be joined in death." That's when the mansion itself groaned. I don't mean a creaky floorboard. I mean the entire building let out a low guttural sound, like it had indigestion from a century of repressed grief. The walls rippled, the chandelier above us swayed violently, even though there was no wind. And then the ground under me cracked, and a hand shot up from the floor. Not skeletal, not ghostly. Fresh. Veiny. Wedding ring still on the finger. More hands followed, dozens of them clawing up through the floorboards like a bouquet of rotted limbs. A chorus of whispering voices flooded the room. "You said I do. Till death us do part. Why didn't you come back?" The bride hovered inches from me now, eyes glowing, her dress billowing like smoke underwater. "You left me," she said, her voice layering into multiple tones, not all of them human. "You broke your vow." "I never made a vow," I shouted, scrambling back over the burning sigil. "Then you will make one now." And that's when the wall started bleeding. Yep, bleeding. Thick trails of red poured from the cracks in the wallpaper. One of the cultists fainted. Mordecai started tearing pages from his book, trying to reverse the ritual. Biscuit leapt into my arms and buried his face in my jacket like, "Nope, we are out of ghost tinder, sir." That's when I realized this wasn't just a haunting. This was a wedding. And I was about to become the groom, willing or not. Yeah, so there I was, ankle deep in blood. A dozen ghost arms grabbing at my legs, and a bride from beyond the veil trying to lock down her undead nuptials. And me, still holding the pizza box like it might be a holy relic. I did what any reasonable person would do in my situation. I chugged the pizza at the ghost bride's face and bolted. It passed straight through her, again, but this time the pepperoni slices scattered like frisbees across the room, and something weird happened. The ghost recoiled. She shrieked. A horrible glass-cracking screech as one of the slices slapped against her ethereal cheek and sizzled. Smoke poured from her veil. What is this?" she shrieked, clawing at her face. "Ah, garlic crust," I whispered, wide-eyed. "No preservatives. You're gluten intolerant, aren't you, you spooky bridezilla?" Well, Biscuit barked, a war cry, and leapt at the nearest floating candle, knocking it directly into the summoning book Mordecai had dropped in his panic. The flames whooshed up in a column of green fire, catching the book and then the tablecloth, which lit up like a napalm wedding centerpiece. The cultists screamed and scattered like roaches in a gas station bathroom. The ghost bride surged toward me again, but now her form was flickering. 1 second human, the next a twisting black mass of eyes and torn lace. She howled, reaching through the air, her fingertips inches from my throat. "Till death do us." And I kicked the burning summoning book straight at her face. The flames engulfed her instantly. Oh, she wailed, twisting upward like smoke caught in a chimney. The glowing sigil on the floor flared and then snapped shut with a sound like a trap closing. The blood vanished. The arms withdrew. The house groaned, but quieter now, like it had burped. And all the candles blew out at once. Silence. The room was dark, still. And then, like a punchline, a single slice of pizza floated down from above and landed perfectly back in the box with a soft plop. I stumbled outside into the cold night air, still clutching the half-scorched pizza box like it was my emotional support animal. Biscuit trotted beside me, singed but proud, tail wagging like he just saved the president. Behind us, the mansion let out one last creaky sigh, like even it was exhausted, and the front doors slammed shut on their own. I didn't look back. Well, the cultists had long since fled, robes flapping, sandals slapping against the pavement. And Mordecai? Well, he'd vanished too, probably off to update his blog about transdimensional heartbreak or whatever. I sat down on the curb, panting, my heart still trying to punch its way out of my chest. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out with trembling hands. Bing. Order complete. Thanks for your delivery. 5 stars. Would definitely marry again. Ethereal Bride 88. And my eyes narrowed. Oh, come on. A breeze swept through the trees. For the first time that night, it didn't feel cursed, just cold. I looked down at Biscuit. You know, I really need to stop taking delivery requests with no return address. He barked once, agreeing far too casually. I stood up, brushed ectoplasm off my jeans, and headed back to my scooter. The box was somehow still warm. Well, haunted or not, that pizza was going to someone. Preferably someone not engaged to a corpse. As I rolled back into town in my sputtering truck, engine wheezing like it had just survived the underworld, it had, I spotted a figure waiting outside the pizza shop. It was around 2 a.m. We were supposed to be closed. And they were standing under the flickering street lamp, holding a cardboard sign. I slowed as I pulled up, and Biscuit growled low in his throat. The figure turned. They were dressed in a tattered grey uniform, old school like Civil War reenactment old, and pale as moonlight. No pupils in their eyes, just fog. The sign read, 1 large sausage, extra blood, no garlic. Deliver to 6 feet under. He handed me a folded $20 bill. It was crisp and dated 1863. I blinked. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. The figure smiled, no lips and too many teeth, and then vanished. I turned to Biscuit. He looked back at me. I sighed. Well, buddy, guess we're working the night shift. Episode 2, The Moonlight Special. So let me just start by saying, I don't judge what people eat. Want pineapple on your pizza? Cool. Prefer anchovies and sadness? Go for it. Want your pepperoni to be, let's say, medium rare? Not my place to say anything. But when I delivered a sausage and onion to a guy who answered the door shirtless, foaming at the mouth and visibly growing more body hair by the second, I figured it was time to start asking questions. This is the story of how I ended up trapped in the woods during a full moon being hunted by what I can only describe as a werewolf with a gluten allergy. Just another night in Mosswood Falls. Oh, and Biscuit peed on a pentagram. Again. The order came in at 11:59 p.m. A moonlight special with extra sausage, no garlic, and a note that just said, "Leave on doorstep. Do not knock, do not speak, do not smell." So naturally, I read that and immediately thought, okay, cool, time to quit my job. And it was a slow night, and I had 3 slices of buffalo chicken pizza weighing me down with greasy guilt, and so I took it. The delivery address was listed as the Old Renshaw Cabin, end of Howler's Path, no trespassing. You know, yes, that scenic spot where local teens go to make bad decisions and everyone else goes to never be seen again. Oh, there was more. Further instructions for second delivery to be received on site. Darla, my boss, leaned out of the back kitchen and gave me her usual encouraging pep talk. If you're gonna die, bring the bag back first. With Biscuit in the passenger seat and a pizza that smelled just slightly off, like oregano mixed with wet dog, I set off toward the woods. And let me tell you, the closer we got to that cabin, the louder the howling got. Not wolves, not coyotes, something in between. Well, I told myself it was probably just wind. Biscuit disagreed by howling back. So yeah, that's how I ended up driving into the cursed woods at midnight with a possessed chihuahua and a meat lover's special toward a place that didn't exist on Google Maps but did exist in that weird old Survivors guy's blog titled "Places the Government Doesn't Want You to Know Smell Like Wet Fur." Spoiler alert, he was right. The Renshaw cabin didn't so much appear as it materialized between the trees, like it had been waiting for me all along. It looked like something out of a horror movie designed by a real estate agent. Rustic charm, definite mold problem, and a front porch that screamed, "This is where your kneecaps go to die." I crept up the steps, pizza box in hand, Biscuit whimpering in my hoodie like a dog who knew this place once hosted a sacrificial bonfire or two. Well, I followed the instructions. Leave on doorstep. Don't knock. Don't speak. Don't smell. I, managed 3 out of the 4. Look, I didn't mean to breathe in, but something wafted out from under the door, something thick and musky like burned fur and Old Spice. Oh, I gagged so hard I startled myself, which startled Biscuit, who barked, which startled the door, because it opened on its own. Inside stood a guy, or a person-shaped mass of muscle and hair. He was shirtless, sweating, eyes bloodshot and shaking like a chihuahua on espresso. "Did you bring it?" he asked, voice low and growly. "The pizza," I said, because my brain short-circuits under pressure and defaults to customer service mode trademark. He snatched the box, sniffed it violently, and muttered, "Blessed be the crust." Then he looked up at the moon with genuine awe and started growling. Growling like his throat was remodeling itself. And that's when I noticed the scratch marks on the walls, deep ones like claw deep. He dropped the pizza, dropped to his knees, and screamed so loud I swear the trees flinched. His spine cracked, bones shifted, his hair sprouted in waves across his arms. I said the only thing that made sense at the time. "Yo, man, you're not gonna tip, are you?" And he lunged. I ran. And Biscuit bit him on the ankle, which surprisingly worked way better than it should have. So now I'm sprinting through the woods with a semi-feral man-beast on my tail, clutching a still half-full pizza bag and a chihuahua named Biscuit who is absolutely thriving in this chaos. Behind me, the dude-wolf hybrid was snarling like a blender full of gravel. His footsteps were heavier now, limbs bending in ways the human body shouldn't allow, like he skipped awkward puberty and gone straight to discount horror movie transformation scene. Well, I tripped over a root, scrambled up and ducked behind a fallen log. Biscuit climbed onto my head like a hat of anxiety and rage. "Hey, we just have to make it to the car," I whispered. "Then we peel out of here, grab some Arby's, and pretend none of this ever..." Something snapped in the woods to my left. Then a low voice, raspy and feminine. "You're not supposed to be here yet." I froze. Then I remembered the second delivery. A woman stepped out of the shadows. She wore a velvet cloak like it was totally normal 21st century delivery night fashion, and her eyes glowed with an amber hue that screamed unnatural. "The delivery was meant for the pack," she said, frowning. "They've been fasting all week." "Okay, well, if they're hangry, I get it, but maybe next time use Grubhub," I offered. She narrowed her eyes. "You are the pizza carrier?" Unfortunately, yes." She murmured. "You were not meant to arrive until the blood moon." "Oh, great," I said. "I'll come back then. I'll bring coupons." She turned and muttered something in a language I didn't recognize, one that made the wind shift and the trees lean in. I swear one of them nodded. Then she looked me dead in the eyes. "Run, Ty. Run now. You've seen too much." "Oh, believe me, I've seen enough." I didn't wait to see what she meant, or how she seemed to know my name. I bolted again. But this time the howling wasn't behind me. It was all around me. Now, picture this. I'm tearing through the forest like a broke Scooby-Doo stunt double, Biscuit still clinging to my hoodie drawstrings like a caffeinated bat. The trees are a blur. The howling, closer, louder, multiplied. I burst into a clearing and skid to a stop, because standing there, half-crouched in a weird moonlit circle of stones, are 4 werewolves, all of them very large, very toothy, and all very interested in me. One of them sniffs the air and growls. He has the garlic crust. And extra cheese, I offer, because apparently I have no survival instinct, just brand loyalty. You shouldn't be here, another one snarls. You've interrupted the ritual of the pack. I was tipped to come here, okay? Look, I've got a name. Literally says Daryl. Large meat monster, extra jalapenos. A deep rumbling voice breaks through the tension then. The cloaked woman from earlier, who I now suspect to be part wolf, part goth Renaissance fair employee, steps into the moonlight. Let him go, she says. The fault is ours. One of the wolves snarls. Yeah, but he's seen us. He's seen worse, she replies. This is Ty. All 4 werewolves pause. Wait, Ty? The biggest one asks. The one who survived the haunted mansion? Yeah, and the pepperoni poltergeist at Lake Calhoun, adds another. Yeah, that's me, I say. I also do gluten-free if anyone's interested. They look at each other, and then chaos. The smallest werewolf howls and lunges. I chuck the pizza bag at him. Biscuit launches off my shoulder like a furry grenade, bites something sensitive, and suddenly it's all fangs, fur, and mozzarella flying through the air. I duck roll, grab a fallen pizza box, half open but miraculously intact, and swing it like a weapon. Cheese slaps across a werewolf's eyes. Jalapenos scatter like little edible landmines. Begone, lupine nightmares, I yell, mostly just panicking. But somehow it works. Maybe it's the garlic crust. Maybe it's the fact I've got the energy of a raccoon at 3 a.m., but they back off, growling, snarling. One limps away, clutching his chest. Oh, too spicy, he wheezes. The cloaked woman walks up to me, calm, regal, a little sauce on her sleeve. You're more important than you know, she says. Yeah, I get that a lot, usually by accident. Then she leans in and lowers her voice. They're watching you now. Who's they? But she's already vanishing into the trees. I look down. Biscuit's licking jalapeno sauce off his paws like this was just a normal Tuesday. My phone buzzes. New delivery. I sigh, pick up the squished but technically edible pizza and say, back to work. So, there I was, sauce-stained and covered in dog hair that may or may not be cursed. I limped back toward the road. Biscuit perched triumphantly on my shoulder, like he'd just soloed a boss fight. The pizza was, let's say, salvageable if the customer didn't mind a little werewolf saliva on the crust. Well, the air was quiet again. Still. Too still. That's when I noticed it. A sleek black SUV parked just off the trail. No headlights, no plates. Tinted windows darker than my high school report card. Someone was sitting inside. Watching. I squinted. Couldn't see the driver, just the faint glow of a laptop screen and the silhouette of someone wearing a headset. I blinked, and the SUV was gone. I mean, not driven away, not peeled out with tires squealing, just gone. Okay, I whispered, rubbing my eyes. Definitely hallucinating. Well, maybe I need to stop eating those expired string cheeses at the back of the warming oven. I stumbled the rest of the way back to the delivery address. A quaint, normal-looking cabin with fairy lights and a friendly live, laugh, love sign hanging by the door. The guy who answered was mid-30s, cardigan, probably named Brett or Kyle. Hey man, he said, you're like, super late. Yeah, traffic was hairy, I deadpanned. What? Oh, nothing. That'll be $18.75. He handed me a 20 and said, keep the change. Whew, big spender. As I climbed back into the hearse, my nickname for my car, which still smelled like sage and sausage, I pulled out my phone and checked the app. One new review. 5 stars. I got home around 2 a.m., smelling like pepperoni and existential dread. I flopped onto the couch, flicked on the TV, and tried to decompress. Some late-night rerun was playing, black and white infomercial for a product that didn't make sense. Introducing the Ombrascope trademark, said a smiling man in a suit that looked like it had been stitched in 1954. See the world as it truly is, now with ecto clarity, only available to level 7 initiates. I blinked. The infomercial disappeared, replaced instantly by a commercial for adult diapers. Okay, I muttered. Definitely time for sleep. I was just about to turn in when my phone buzzed. New message, no name, no number, just a blank screen. And a single line of text. You're not supposed to be delivering out there, Tyler. My heart stopped. A second message popped up. They can smell the light on you. I stared at the screen, my fingers frozen, trying to decide whether to laugh, throw the phone, or cry into a box of breadsticks. Then came the third message. Project Umbra is watching. See you next shift. Then my phone went dead. No battery warning, no crash, just dead. I looked around my dark apartment. Biscuit was curled up asleep in the sink again, like the gremlin he is. Somewhere outside, a wolf howled. Or maybe something pretending to be a wolf. All I could think of was, do I still have to clock in tomorrow? Episode 3. Extra cheese, hold, the cult. Oh, you ever have one of those nights where you just know something's going to go wrong? For normal people, that probably means locking your keys in the car or realizing your date's allergic to garlic halfway through a pesto flatbread. For me, Well, it means getting sent to a laundromat that smells like mouldy cinnamon and being mistaken for the harbinger of doom by a bunch of robe-wearing nutcases chanting about pepperoni portals. But hey, at least they tip better than the guy who made me walk through a cemetery last week. So it started around 9 p.m, which is prime laundry hour for insomniacs, vampires, and people who own only one pair of pants. Darla slid the ticket across the counter without a word, ashing her cigarette into a half-empty coffee mug. "Spin and cycle suds," she muttered, not even looking up. "I use the back door. Don't ask why." I asked why. She ignored me. Biscuit growled the moment we turned onto Hemlock Avenue. It wasn't his normal mailman snarl either. This was his "something ancient sleeps here" growl. But I told him it was probably just the detergent fumes or maybe some leftover dryer sheets. You'd think by now I'd have learned to listen when my dog starts quoting dead languages under his breath. Darla told me to use the back door, which in Mosswood Falls is basically code for "you're about to enter a cursed space-time wrinkle, kid." The alley behind Spin and Cycle Suds was lit by a flickering neon open sign, even though there wasn't a single person doing laundry inside. The machines were running, but empty, clothes tumbling around like invisible people were mid-wash. "Yep, totally normal," I muttered, clutching the pizza box tighter. Biscuit stayed in the car this time, which should have been my first red flag. He usually insists on supervising me when I go into haunted buildings. I stepped through the back entrance and followed a faint voice calling, "Down here." Then came the crack, literally. Floor tile beneath me gave a groan like it was trying to cough. And the next thing I knew, I was in free fall. I landed hard on my side, still holding the pizza box like some kind of greasy life preserver, in what looked like a cross between a wine cellar and an Indiana Jones trap room. Torches, hooded figures, a giant glowing bit of green fire. "Behold," one of them shrieked, pointing at me, "the Chosen One has arrived." I blinked. "Hey, it's pronounced chosen." "No, the Chosen One." Another robed cultist stepped forward, trembling with reverence. "Look, the mark of the mozzarella one." Everyone turned round to stare at the pizza box. Well, I followed the gaze and saw it. The Vito's Pizza logo. A triangle of cheese with 3 strategically placed pepperoni slices. And on the stone wall behind them, towering above the altar, was a woven tapestry showing the exact same symbol. "Wait," I said, slowly backing up. "You guys think this means something? It's just branding. Well, we've had the same logo since '93. "It is the sign foretold," the cult leader boomed. "The chosen deliverer has come. The age of eternal lunch begins." Damn. This was gonna be a long night. So, here's a thing I never expected to say out loud. I got fitted for ceremonial robes by a cult who thinks mozzarella is holy. They were chanting something that sounded like Gregorian monks arguing over toppings, and one of them handed me a goblet full of what looked like lava sauce. "Drink of the eternal flame," he whispered. "It burns, but in a flavorful way." A hard pass, I said, and tried to play it cool. Let's not rush into anything eternal just yet. Maybe give it, 10 minutes to cool down. They didn't laugh. Not even a pity chuckle. Damn, tough crowd. I was led up to this one giant stone slab that looked exactly like the world's heaviest pizza paddle. It even had burn marks. One of the cultists reverently placed the pizza box onto the altar like it was Excalibur. That's when I saw him. Lurking in the shadows behind a crumbling archway was Chud. Arms crossed, lip curled, still wearing his Inferno's pizza visor like it was battle gear. Unbelievable. he hissed. You, again? Chud, I blinked. What are you doing here? I thought you only worked the cemetery district. He stepped into the torchlight, sulking. I was supposed to be the chosen deliverer. The sign was clear. The time, the place, the sacrificial coupon. But your Darla rerouted the order. You stole my destiny. Dude, I didn't steal anything. I just followed the little map app with the skull on it. Shard clenched his jaw. You're always in the way, Ty. Always bumbling into things you don't understand. He narrowed his eyes then. I'm telling him. Who's him? I asked. But Shard was already storming off down a tunnel, muttering something about escalating it to management. Well, that's when I heard it. I looked up and saw Biscuit, standing on a ledge overlooking the temple chamber, fur bristling, eyes glowing faintly in the torchlight, like a little monk ready to throw hands. Oh, nobody, I whispered. Be cool. But Biscuit was already working himself into a Latin-fueled frenzy. One of the cultists looked up and muttered nervously, The Guardian has awakened. Okay. That was new. Biscuit barked again, and 3 torches went out. I was starting to think maybe my dog had had a past life. So, here's the thing. When you're handed an ancient scroll written in a dead language, you kind of expect it to sound, well, ancient, like full of Latin and creepy mystical mumbo-jumbo. But this sounded suspiciously like an Italian takeout menu. Read the chant, the cult leader said, holding up a trembling hand. The words must be spoken for the prophecy to unfold. The scroll was written in flowing script that seemed to glow. Well, I squinted at it. Guys, is this just me, or does this read like a pizza order? And the cultists were too busy with their hoods and incense to notice me squinting at what was essentially a menu for an Italian family reunion. Diavolo, quattro formaggi, strombolini, I muttered to myself, shrugging. Well, might as well give it a shot. I could hear a faint rumble in the room, the air thickening with heat. Anchovini, extra cheesiest. The floor vibrated beneath me, like I was standing on top of a massive oven that had just cranked up to max. The torches flared with heat, and the chanting intensified as if the cult was feeding off my mistakes. And then, the pit began to glow, a fiery red that made everything feel like a bad pizza night. Slowly, through the swirling mist, something massive began to rise up from the pit. I mean, something huge. It was a goat-headed creature, covered in dripping marinara sauce, and it had eyes that glowed like molten cheese. Its hooves cracked the stone beneath it as it slowly lifted itself out of the pit, each movement sending waves of heat through the chamber. The cultists dropped to their knees. The Ancient One, the Sourcebringer, the prophecy is fulfilled, they screamed. I froze. This was not what I signed up for. The creature's head turned slowly toward me, dripping sauce as it stepped closer. God, it towered over me, its mouth opening, revealing rows of sharp, cheese-crusted teeth. You have summoned me, it rumbled, its voice like an oven preheating. I was panicking. This was bad, really bad. Look, I held up my hands. I'm just a delivery guy. I don't know what happened. I swear I didn't mean to summon you. The cultists were cheering. The prophecy is true. The mozzarella one has come to claim his kingdom. That's when it hit me. The chant. It wasn't ancient at all. It was a pizza order. I cleared my throat, trying to focus. Oh, so is there a way to fix this? I mean, you don't look that bad, but this is a lot of marinara to handle, right? The creature's eyes narrowed. You dare question my power, mortal? Well, I had no idea what I was doing, but I wasn't going to let this thing destroy Mosswood Falls. In that moment, I remembered the one thing I knew best. Pizza. If there was one thing I'd learned from working at Crust Cradle Pizza, it was that a little bit of chaos and a whole lot of toppings could fix almost anything. With a shaky breath, I leaned toward the pit. Extra cheese, I muttered, thinking, oh, what have I got to lose? And then the room started to shake like a dough being tossed in the air. The air grew heavier and suddenly... The creature's body jerked back, the demonic glow flickering, and the ground beneath us cracked open. The cultists screamed. A terrifying howl echoed from the depths, but I wasn't sure if it was fear or the sound of mozzarella turning on itself. Either way, I wasn't sticking around to find out. So, here I was, standing in front of a sauce-covered demon lord the size of a food truck, sweat pouring down my face, ropes sticking to me in all the worst places. And my only weapon? Half-remembered toppings and a working knowledge of lunch specials. The scroll trembled in my hands, glowing brighter with every word. The cultists around me chanted louder, like a stadium crowd about to watch a human sacrifice halftime show. Oh, okay, I muttered, glancing at Biscuit, who was barking and foaming like a possessed espresso machine. Come on, you got this, Ty. You took theater for a semester. You can fake fluency. I cleared my throat and shouted. Calzonio, Magnifico, Suprema, Deluxo, Crustico, Salamius Dominare. The silence fell. The room stopped shaking. The demon paused mid-rise, halfway out of the pit, one clawed hand resting on the altar. Its molten cheese eyes slowly narrowed at me. Did you just call me a calzone? I blinked. No? A low growl erupted from its throat, the kind that makes your fillings rattle. The cultists looked around nervously. He has offended the Great One, the cult leader screamed. The prophecy is unraveling. The demon lurched, its form beginning to flicker. The marinara boiling off its shoulders evaporated in bursts of red steam, and its horns began to crack. You dare confuse me with a folded abomination of dough and shame, it roared. Suddenly the air ripped open with a sonic whoomph. The glowing pit reversed its pull. The summoning circle began to implode, dragging robes, candles, folding chairs, and ritual cheese wheels into its swirling vortex. Uh-oh, I whispered, and I grabbed Biscuit just as the floor began to collapse in chunks. The altar split in two, and cultists were tumbling into the pit like toppings off a badly sliced pie. One robed figure grabbed for me, wild-eyed, screaming something about eternal pepperoni. But Biscuit launched at him, teeth bared, and bit into his hood, yanking him backward with a growl that sounded suspiciously like Latin. Good boy, I shouted, bolting up the stone stairs, two at a time, as behind us the demon screamed in ancient rage. I am not a calzone. The chamber buckled and caved. Dust, light, chanting, all swallowed by the reversal. The stairs shook violently under my feet, but I didn't stop running, not until I burst back through the cracked tile and landed hard in a pile of dirty socks. The towel slammed shut behind me with a muffled thud, like the world exhaling after a nightmare. I sprawled out on the floor of the laundromat, hair singed, robe torn, crusted in ash, ritual cheese clinging to my shoes like shame. Around me, machines churned peacefully, A floral scent wafted from a nearby dryer. I blinked. A woman folding socks in the corner blinked back. "Hey, you work here?" she asked, eyes darting to the pizza box still miraculously in my hand. Wordlessly, I handed it over, stood up, and limped out the door. Biscuit trotted behind me, tail wagging like we'd just finished a fun jog and not, collapsed a cheese-worshipping death cult. The streets of Mosswood Falls looked as they always did. A little foggy, a little too quiet. As if the town collectively agreed to pretend nothing weird had just happened beneath spin cycle suds and stuff. The bell over the pizza shop door jingled as I walked in. Darla looked up from behind the counter, puffing on a cigarette like it had personally offended her. Her eyes flicked over me, soot-streaked, limping, hair smouldering at the tips. She took a long drag. "So," she said, "guess it wasn't Chud after all." She didn't sound surprised, just tired. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but all I could manage was, "Yeah, they, tried to make me eat eternal flame cheese." Darla exhaled a plume of smoke. "Yeah, that'll happen." That night I lay in bed, shirtless and traumatized, picking at a box of leftover garlic knots like they might explain the meaning of life. Biscuit was curled up at the foot of the bed, snoring softly. Everything was fine, totally fine. Just another cursed delivery to a demonic cheese cult in the Spin Cycle district. I reached for another knot, and that's when Biscuit snapped awake, teeth bared. He growled low at the corner of the room, and then from the crumpled pizza box on the floor, a sound emerged. A hiss, oily and thick, like sauce bubbling on hot stone. Then a whisper, in ancient Italian. "Il portatore ha iniziato il ciclo. Il forno è acceso." The deliverer has begun the cycle. The oven has been lit. I stared. Biscuit barked twice and peed a little on my laundry pile. I slowly got up, crossed the room, and with trembling fingers closed the pizza box. Nope, I muttered. And I chucked it straight into the trash. Deep in the mossy woods beyond Mosswood Falls, a bonfire burns in a clearing, flames licking the branches like hungry tongues. Kneeling before it is Chud, silhouetted, fists clenched in rage. His delivery uniform is torn, soaked with grease and his ego. A figure steps out from the trees. Officer Rodriguez. His uniform is crisp but wrong, too clean, too symmetrical. His skin is pale, eyes glowing faintly beneath the brim of his cap. There's something off about the way he moves, smooth, deliberate, like he's remembering how a person is supposed to walk. He steps into the firelight, and the shadows ripple behind him like heat waves. "Project Umbra thanks you for your patience," Rodriguez says, voice both metallic and hollow. "Phase 1 is complete." Behind him, dozens of other figures stir in the dark, featureless faces in cloaks, watching, waiting. And Chud grins. About damn time. So, my dear friends, this I feel like it's the spiritual successor to the Werewolves Are Assholes series. Different theme, obviously, but it's got that same kind of screwball comedy mixed in with the horror. And there's a long way to go, at least 10 episodes, so it's going to be several hours worth of storytelling. And it may even go beyond that as well. Okay, so yeah, I'm privy to future episodes already, and I really like the way it's shaping up. So I hope you enjoy this. Thoughts, feelings, anything else you want to say about these first 3 episodes? And if you like it, I will definitely keep this one going. Alright, because it's all ready for you. 3 hours or so of stuff. Anyway, waffling. Ugh. It's a very hot day here, 28 degrees. Haven't drunk enough water, and starting to not quite hallucinate, but yeah, need to go and drink some water. Anyway, enough of this. Back again very soon, my dear friends. Let me know what you thought of that one, and I will definitely continue. Till the next time, you'll sleep well. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.